In this video, I've decided to give you a step-by-step tutorial, a full complete guide on how to start dropshipping on Facebook Marketplace, which is likely one of the biggest opportunities in dropshipping and e-commerce as of 2021. This will be a full-on and step-by-step course, no BS, so just follow along. If I'm going too fast, feel free to rewatch that part again, grab a pen and paper, and let's get started. It doesn't matter if you're in the US, if you're in Egypt, Bulgaria, India, Pakistan, none of this matters. Very quickly before we start, if you're new to dropshipping, and if you're new to e-commerce in general, I just want to say this. Facebook has introduced a shipping option on Facebook Marketplace last year in 2020, which puts Facebook Marketplace on the same level or gives Facebook Marketplace sellers similar capabilities as eBay. Before this, you could only use Facebook Marketplace to buy and sell locally in your area. Right now with shipping option, you can list an item in New York and a person in Los Angeles can buy it and you can ship it, provide a shipping number, and the process will essentially be the same as on eBay. And second thing I want to just say before we start, dropshipping essentially means that you do not have to buy any inventory up front, you don't have to store it anywhere, but you're just going to be creating listings for items that you don't have, for listings for items from your supplier's website, and then once you sell, you then go to your supplier, process the order, you ship the item to your customer from Facebook, that closes the process, Facebook releases your money, and that's how you essentially turn profit on Facebook Marketplace as a dropshipper. This should give you a pretty good idea. If you're not sure about what dropshipping is, what dropshipping on Facebook Marketplace is, probably watch some other videos about eBay dropshipping. I think that will explain the process pretty well. And if you're missing anything, feel free to comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer with anything that you're asking for. So right now, I'll explain to you step by step how to find hot selling items, how to find products in high demand, how to keep track of your items, and also how to keep track of your orders. I'll go through this video systematically and start with what you need at the beginning and then move on to actually sourcing items, listing them, and customer service and everything else that you need at the end. Basically, you'll need two things. First is a Facebook account, and second is capital to process orders. Anybody has a Facebook account. If you don't have one, just go out and create one. It costs nothing and it takes 5 minutes to do so. The second part is you need a capital. You need a capital because you need to process orders, because Facebook holds your money just same as Amazon from the moment somebody purchases your item to about 2 weeks after delivery. I know it sucks, but as a Mandalorian would say, this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the same process as it is on Amazon, or slightly different, but almost the same, where the platform will hold the money to make sure that you're not scamming people. Essentially now is the same even as on eBay with managed payments. So you really need to keep track of your cash flow. You really need to know how much profit margins you have, how much cash you have available at your disposal, and that will determine how much in sales can you sell on that account. This is super important. I mean, I've had these issues when I was starting out because I'm not a US citizen. I did not have credit cards to process all my orders. And if you've never heard about cash flow, you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely spend some more time on YouTube, watch some other videos about cash flow. But first, finish this video. Thank you. These two things is all you need if you're an American, if you live in the US, and if you have a social security number. If you live outside of the United States, make sure to watch until the end where I talk about what you need to do to get yourself set up on Facebook Marketplace as anybody else, as an American, where you can then take your store and scale it and get as much in sales as possible. So now you know the requirements. Facebook account, capital. How to get started. Go to Google Drive and start 2 new spreadsheets. You'll need 2 spreadsheets at the very least. You want to approach this as a real business, you need to keep track of everything, and at the very least, you'll need 2 spreadsheets. You'll use one for sourcing new items that you will upload to Facebook Marketplace, and you'll use the second to keep track of your orders and to keep track of your profits. Later on, you can add as many spreadsheets as you want, but honestly, this is the very basic and the most important 2 things that you have in a dropshipping business. After this, you can have a spreadsheet for returns, you can have a spreadsheet for other customer service issues, You can really keep track of anything, but this is the very most basic 2 things that you need to cover if you don't want to lose track of your orders, if you don't want to lose track of your items, etc., etc. Trust me, this is very super important. You need these 2 spreadsheets. Now let's have a look inside of my computer. I'll tell you exactly what you need. So we'll start with a sourcing sheet. This is the first sheet you need because you need to kind of keep track of what items you're adding onto Facebook Marketplace, onto your profile. And if you want to save costs on any software, etc., this is the cheapest way because it costs nothing and it's very easy to do. It's cloud-based, so you can access it from your phone, you can access it from your laptop. It will make your life easier, trust me. So here's what you need to have. You likely want to start with a date. So you're going to have a date, and then you want to have the title that you put on Facebook Marketplace for each item that you list. Right next to it, you want to put the Facebook Marketplace item URL. That means you can take that URL, you put it into a new window, and then if you press enter, you're going to end up on that listing. Right next to that, you put your price. That means how you priced the item on Facebook Marketplace. Now, the pricing strategy is totally up to you because there is not a lot of saturation right now. There's not a lot of competition. On certain items, there is no competition. There probably is. It's very low. Now, starting January of this year, 2021, Facebook is going to charge you 5% fee on each sale. If you're new to e-commerce, if you're new to dropshipping, this is very good, trust me, because eBay charges about 9%, Amazon charges 15%, same with Walmart. This is really the best there is. What you want to have next is you want to have your supplier URL. Whoever your supplier is, let's say Walmart, let's say Amazon, you want to take the URL of the item that you want to dropship and paste it here. Right next to that, you have a supplier price. Why you want to have it here is because sometimes suppliers change prices. So when you're checking your items, because you want to start manually, you want to save as much cost as possible, you want to occasionally you want to go back and check if the price on your supplier's website has not changed. If your supplier charges shipping, you want to have a shipping column where you'll put whatever shipping the supplier charges on that specific item. Next column you want to dedicate to sales tax. If you're new, if you're just starting out, there's no reason for you to get a sales tax ID straight off the bat. And so you want to account for about 6 to 7% to sales tax. Not every state charges sales tax, and the sales tax rate varies dramatically from state to state. But on average, if you're not tax exempt with your supplier, you'll end up paying about additional 7%. And then you want to have an expected profit column. Why you want to have an expected profit column is because when you're just sourcing items, you want to quickly put in your supplier price, and then try to play with the price that you want to put on Facebook so that you kind of see what is the profit rate, what is the profit margin on this particular item. So here's the formula. This formula accounts for 5% that Facebook Marketplace is going to charge you, and it also takes out the shipping charges. And here is a formula for the profit margin rate. Next up, I always like to have a column for notes. This is for my VAs, so they can tell me whatever they have in mind when they're listing this item, if they think or if the item doesn't really follow my criteria that I gave them, they will provide their reasoning as to why they're actually listing it. If they want to test something out, it's good to have a note column. Even if you're listing yourself, even if you're looking for items yourself, you want to have a note column where you can type down your thought process when you're listing that item. Because sometimes you want to check something later on, you want to see how things perform. This is the way to keep track of it. All right, and that's all you need for sourcing items. But to source items, you actually need suppliers, right? You need suppliers to list items, because if you don't have items to list, you're not making sales, you're not making profit. This whole business model doesn't work. It's all scam, right? First of all, you can start with Amazon. You can start with Walmart. You can start with Home Depot. I'm not going to recommend any of these 3 suppliers because, first of all, not all of them are going to give you a tracking number that you can upload to Facebook. So that is a big problem straight off the bat. Second thing is, if Facebook is ever going to go after retail dropshippers on their platform, dropshippers that are using these 3 suppliers are going to be the first in line to get hammered. I guarantee that 100%. This has happened on eBay, this has happened on Amazon, it's sure enough is going to happen on Walmart. And who knows what Facebook has in store for Facebook Marketplace, no pun intended. So I recommend to find other suppliers that are dropshipping friendly, that If possible, have lenient return policies, but most likely what you need to make sure of that they are okay with dropshippers. One of these suppliers that you can use is Costa Way, for example. They have generic Chinese items, they have huge selection, so you can always look for different stuff and list and test what works and what doesn't. But I will tell you how to source items, how to look for hot selling products right after I go over the second spreadsheet that you'll need, which is about keeping track of your orders, keeping track of your profits. So let's get into that right now. Looks very similar. You also want to have the date, which is for the date the sales occurs. Next to that, you want to copy the item title, or you don't necessarily need that, but I like it. Right next to that, you put your Facebook Marketplace order number. When somebody purchases your item, you get an order number. This is where you copy and paste that number, so you can always reference it back. Right next to that, you want to have your supplier order ID or order number from your supplier. This is for when you order the item at your supplier's website and you ship the item to your customer. This will be the order number to cross-reference with the Facebook Marketplace order number. This is for returns, for complaints. You always want to keep track of these two. Next up, you want to have the price the item sold for. You might have been playing around with your pricing after you listed it, so this might be different from the price that you put in the previous spreadsheets. These two spreadsheets live separately. They don't cross-reference really. You don't really need to do anything with them, with both of them at the same time. This is just to keep track of your profits. Purchase price is the price that you actually paid to your supplier for the item. This again might be different from the previous spreadsheet because your supplier might have changed the prices. Amazon does this all the time, so you always want to make sure that you always record how much you paid for an item. Next up is shipping, if you paid any shipping. Next up is sales tax, if you paid any sales tax, if you're not tax exempt with your supplier. And then you calculate your profit. This is your front end profit that you have after selling the item, or profit or loss. You never know, it's always a surprise, after you process the order. So here you can see the formula. This is very simple, just follow along. You can copy the same, just pause the screen if you want to, copy the same exact formula. And again, this is the profit percentage, or profit or loss percentage. And again, that's super basic. It's all you need to start and to get going and to be consistent and to keep order of your dropshipping business. So that's the two spreadsheets that you need to have, along with a Facebook account and a capital. Once you have these four things together, you need to know how to look for items that are gonna sell. This is not a rocket science, obviously, but there are some ways where you can increase the likelihood of your items selling. Nobody who dropships on any larger scale is selling all of their items. Forget about it. This has never been a thing on any platform. You're gonna list a lot of items that are never gonna sell. Also, the reason why they didn't sell may not even make sense. I don't want to go too much into details, but just know that you might have listed an item and not sell it, and then somebody else has listed it even for a higher price with the same exact title, same exact photos, and that the other person sold. That's super common across all marketplaces. This happens all the time. Don't think about it. You will end up listing many items that are never going to sell. However, the ones that do sell will cover up for the time you spent listing items that didn't. I don't have the exact data for Facebook Marketplace specifically, but from my estimates, about 10 to 20, up to 30% maximum of your items are gonna sell. So that's that. Second thing you need to keep in mind, not all categories have the shipping option included. That means if you have a perfect supplier for furniture, and Facebook doesn't allow you the option to ship it, then you're gonna have a really hard time actually selling these items to people outside of your area. So keep that in mind. You might try to list these items as a miscellaneous, as in other categories, but sometimes it's not gonna go through. Sometimes Facebook is gonna simply not approve the listing. So like I said, what you wanna do is you want to have a list of suppliers. You want to have a list of suppliers that you go to source your items. One of the suppliers that I gave you is Costa Way. They have a lot of cheap generic stuff from China. They have warehouse in the US. They have free shipping on every item they have on their website. They're not going to charge you sales tax. anywhere else except California. In California, they're going to charge you 7.25%, which makes Costa Way one of the best suppliers to get started with, because if you're using, for example, Amazon, they're going to charge you sales tax in every state except the states that actually don't have sales tax at all. Costa Way is not going to charge you any sales tax. That's why I'm kind of using it in this video, because it's very beginner friendly. I believe you can even use PayPal to check out, which works for a lot of international sellers that do not have a US debit card. Another thing you want to do is you want to think of seasonality. Right now we're heading into spring, depending on where you live, but you're selling into the US. So you want to think as if you live there as well. So you can look into a lot of gardening stuff, a lot of outside activities. It's still winter right now at many places in the US, so a lot of winter equipment, winter items are still relevant at this stage in time. When summer approaches, think of outside activities, think of what people want to do when it's hot outside. This is the mindset that you need to have. Another thing you want to do is go on eBay, go on Amazon, and look for items that are being sold on these platforms. There are several tools you can do to determine which platforms are selling a lot, and you can adjust your listing strategy depending on that. At the very beginning, what you want to do is simply list as many things as possible that you think are gonna sell. List even the items that you don't think are gonna sell, because these are most likely gonna sell, just to poke fun at you. If you do this, if you don't follow any other strategy that narrows it down to a specific supplier, to a specific type of sellers, to specific blueprint, you're gonna find your niche much quicker. You're gonna find what works for you, and nobody else will land at the same place as you have, because I just explained a general process. So you might end up looking at eBay the most. Some other person might end up looking at Costa Way and go based on how many reviews item have. Another person might start dropshipping seasonal items. This is the best way to find your niche. It requires work, it requires doing things that you don't really know how to do. But if you stick with the process, you figure it out, you'll find your niche, you'll find what works the most for you. And you'll be the only person that landed on that finding. There's enough stuff to dropship for everyone. So let's say we're in Costa Way. We want to go into outdoor furniture. We want to look at what they have. Again, depending on your cash flow, if you have credit cards, you have large credit, you don't have to worry about the item's price. If you don't have a lot of credit, if you don't have any credit, and if you do not have a lot of cash at hand, look for cheaper items. Any and all of these items are good to dropship. So let's say we go into tools, because spring is coming, people are going to start working outside, working on their fences, working on their gardens. This is a great category for spring. And let's say we decide to list this item. We're going to take the link, we're going to put it into our sourcing spreadsheet right here, and we're going to put the supplier URL. This is for the items that we've effectively decided to list. So for the titles, this is a science of its own. I do not recommend to simply copy and paste the item title from your supplier's website. What I recommend is to think about what people are going to search for, because this does not always resemble the actual title on your supplier's website. You can also think of other the words and keywords that your supplier didn't use. You can do that by looking into the item description and seeing what keywords you could use in your title. The longer title you have, the better oftentimes, because it gives you the ability to add more keywords, and which increases your chances that people are going to find your listing. You look at the price, you put it in your pricing spreadsheet as into the supplier price field, and then you want to play around with your Facebook price. So let's say if this costs this much, you want to try, I don't know, this, and it tells you how much profit margin that you have and how much profit you have after Facebook takes their 5% order processing fee or payment processing fee or whatever they want to call it. This is on Costa Way, so there is no shipping. So here even the average sales tax is obviously much lower, because not every sale goes to California. So you can leave it at 0, and this tells you how much profit margin will you have if you're using Costa Way as your supplier. Now here I've just explained your front end profit. That is essentially the difference between the purchase price and the selling price that you sold the item for on Facebook Marketplace. Now, how can you increase your profit margins? Well, if you're living in the US, you might as well use a credit card with a cashback. However, if you do not have a credit card with cashback, you can use third-party companies like Giving Assistant or Be Frugal or Mr. Rebates to collect the cashback for you. It essentially works like this. You go onto your supplier's website. If you have these extensions, a pop-up will come out and you can see what cashback these extensions are going to offer you. These are the best cashback solutions for internationals and even for Americans that do not have access to credit cards. It increases your profit margins by sometimes up to 10%. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm leaving all the links to these extensions in the description of this video as well. So this should increase your profit margins. You can thank me later. This kind of covers the sourcing part. If you want other strategies, what I can recommend is get a Zik Analytics software tool, which costs about $30 a month, and then use it to source items on eBay, and then use these items to list on Facebook. The process is slightly different, and you need a seller list, and you need to find actual dropshippers that use the same supplier as you want to use. But overall, this is kind of a very straightforward system. This is a very straightforward way to source items for eBay Marketplace. So if you want, this is definitely a way. It costs about $30 that you need to pay for Zik Analytics. And once you have that, it's the same as the manual method, just on steroids. I'm not gonna cover it in this video because I wanted to keep everything manual for this one. So you've added your item into your sourcing sheet, but you've not yet added it onto Facebook as an item. So what you wanna do is you go to Facebook Marketplace, you click on create a new listing, you click on item for sale, you fill up all the requirements. In your description, you want to copy some of the description. You can also reword it if you want to be completely under the radar. And most importantly, if you already have the shipping option, you want to say that you do not ship into Hawaii and Alaska, or just say something, you're only shipping to the lower 48 states, period. You do not ship into military addresses, APO, FPO. I'm gonna actually, as a bonus, for this video, I'm gonna add the little description piece that says all this into the description of this video. So make sure to have that on your listings so people from Alaska and Hawaii are not ordering your items. And if they are, you can cancel it, say that there's something wrong with their address. Another tip I can give you to stay under the dropshipping radar, you want to screenshot the photos that you take from Costa Way or any other supplier. You don't want to just click save and save them and upload them to Facebook because of EXIF data, because the metadata connected to the photo is then uploaded to Facebook. So Facebook can quickly realize if somebody's just downloading photos from Costa Way and uploading them to Facebook. What I always do is I just take a screenshot and upload it. Another tip I give you for photos, because sometimes Facebook Marketplace is still a lot like eBay. People are selling stuff that they have at home and they take a picture with their phone of that. So what you can do is you can look on your supplier's website if they have any custom reviews with photos, and then just simply screenshot the photo of from the review and upload it as your main photo. If it actually makes sense, if it's a good shot, shows the item in all of its beauty. This is another tip that you can use to not look sketchy, because there is not a lot of listings with stock images on Facebook Marketplace just yet. You can list as a single item, you add your product tags. This is all the keywords from the title. You can double keyword it, you can add more keywords into the product tags, and that's all you have of the description. The condition, obviously set it as new, and here's the price that you want to set it for. Available quantity, I would probably do 3, you have nothing to lose that way. And price per item, like I said before, you dictate your own price. I would probably aim for 30% if it makes sense. You obviously might want to check a quick search, see what other people are selling the same or similar item for, so you're not completely overpriced, but something reasonable. And that's it. You click next, and here you just confirm eventually. And then you copy the listing URL, you put it into the sourcing sheet, and obviously make sure that you've copied the title, added it here. And that's it. Now you have the item listed in here. And if you do this 20 times every single day now for a month, in 1 month you're gonna be making more sales and money than you can keep up with capital-wise. unless you have a black Amex or some other charge card and you really know what you're doing. That being said, here are a few other things that you need to know. On Facebook, you need to upload a tracking number within 3 days from the time the order is placed. So if you're using some different suppliers, always make sure that they dispatch items quickly within that specified time period. And that's it. That's all you need to get started. You need the spreadsheets, you need a Facebook account, and you need a capital. If you do not have the shipping option, what you want to do is keep on listing as many listings on Facebook Marketplace as humanly possible. If Facebook sees that you're active, they're gonna reward you for it. I got a shipping option on my profile, on my personal profile, which is not a US profile. I currently reside in Indonesia, and I got the shipping option within about the first week of me using a VPN, changing the location of my listing to the US, and then just logging and uploading a bunch of items onto that profile. Resilience. You just need to keep at it. You just need to keep at it, and even if it doesn't take you a week, it doesn't take you 2 weeks, just keep on trying to figure it out. I don't know what exactly made Facebook decide to bless me with the shipping option, but they did, and it changes everything. If you don't have the shipping option, just keep on listing. Keep on listing as many things as possible. If somebody inquires about an item, they can always pay you through PayPal. Just keep on listing and wait and keep an eye on your Facebook feed. Eventually, they should offer you the shipping option. Sooner or later, it's gonna be there. The more you list, the more you'll learn about dropshipping, the more you'll figure out, the more you'll be ready for when the moment comes of Facebook actually giving you the access to the shipping option. Now, if you live outside of the United States, this is where it gets a bit tricky. You still can dropship on Facebook Marketplace, but what you will need is an ITIN number. It's individual tax ID. Don't ask me why Facebook requires it. No other platform does. After you cross $599 in sales in 12 months, they're gonna have to send a form 1099 MISC, 1099 MISC, and they are gonna have to send it to the IRS. Essentially, if you look at the actual form from the IRS, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen again, you can see that EIN number should be completely fine. However, it's not. I don't know why. It's just Facebook being Facebook. So the only way to get this done is if you have an individual tax identification number, short for ITIN, which is the very equivalent of social security number that Americans have. That's your first option. Another option is partnering up with somebody in the US who has SSN, or somebody even in your area. I mean, like, we live in a very globalized world. You might find out that there is an American just across the hallway that is an entrepreneur and is looking for the next break, something like this. You know, if you network enough, you'll see that people travel a lot. It doesn't have to be somebody who sits in the US. It can be somebody with a social security number sitting next to you, somebody with ITIN in the city next to your city. So obviously what you can do, you can partner up with them, divide the responsibilities, divide the capital, and that's another option that you can do. So these are two options that you have. And honestly, if you're just starting out and you want to take it seriously, I recommend that you pursue both at the same time. If you want to know how to do it, I have a link in the description to my course that explains everything in detail on how to position yourself same as Americans when it comes to dropshipping. I'm actually adding an ITIN specific video to the course right now, following the weird Facebook requirement, which essentially prohibits you to verify your Facebook Marketplace profile with just the tax ID of your company. If you are actually interested in my course and you want to get your company, you want to get your ITIN, you want to have your US bank account, make sure to message me on Instagram because I'll give you a 30% off. I think I've covered all of it. If I did not, and you let me know down in the comments, I promise to give you a video number 2 where I'm gonna explain everything that I missed out in this one. I think it's already way too long at this point, so I'm just gonna cut it here. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.
I have spoken.